Welcome to the I'm In podcast, where you learn to unleash your creative genius, live a more abundant life, and change your world. And now, your host, Heather Hodges.
Mr. Kingsley was my 8th grade art teacher. In the mid-1980s, my dad's job took us to France, and my brothers and I attended the American School of Paris. And art was not an elective at our school. It was compulsory. Every student took art, which makes sense because we lived in the city which housed the biggest art museum in the world. And Mr. Kingsley had just this massive personality, and he had a gift for making every student feel like they were a creative genius. And he didn't have a lot of rules, or he didn't give restrictive instructions that might stifle our creativity. When a student would ask him for his ideas on how to do a project, he would say, and he said it over and over and over, he said this in this massive booming voice. He said, "You can do it any way you want, any way you want, any way you want, any way you want." And his message, it was crystal clear. It's up to you. You're the artist. You make the decisions. And I was blessed to have such an open and encouraging teacher at that age. He made all of us feel like we were Claude Monet in training. But not everyone had a Mr. Kingsley. In fact, many of you had an entirely different experience. You might have had someone in your life who convinced you that you had no creative ability at all. And I bet you vividly remember that exact moment. And think about what was stolen when you were made to believe you aren't creative. At that moment, your creative identity was ripped away from you. You were told you had nothing original to contribute, and the world didn't need your way of seeing things. Your imagination and that wild, untamed part of you that could see possibilities, it was dismissed. And the tragedy is that you might have believed it. So you quietly packed away that part of yourself and you learned to color inside the lines. And that was not just a loss for every organization, group, institution, congregation, or community that you're a part of. That was a loss for you. In the last episode, we saw why we desperately need creativity and what happens when it's suppressed. The stakes couldn't be higher. Companies that fail to unleash creativity don't just lose relevance, they could cease to exist. But the cost isn't just organizational, it's also personal. Suppressing creativity leads to lower employee engagement and higher turnover. Organizations with cultures that hinder creativity are not just losing ideas, they're losing people. But knowing creativity is important isn't enough. To cultivate it, you first need to understand how you might be killing it. Now, I don't think that most organizations set out to suppress or kill creativity. They're not the bad guys in the story, but they are operating within systems that make creativity nearly impossible, even when innovation is the goal. And in my work, I've identified 5 specific ways creativity is systematically suppressed. Now, as you listen to these, I encourage you just to resist the urge to get defensive. Instead, get curious and ask yourself where you see these barriers in your life or your organization, and how can you start breaking them down so creativity can flourish. Let's start at the beginning, when you were a kid. Here is the reason or the first way we have killed creativity. Number 1, school taught you there's only one right answer. In childhood, our imaginations are wild and abundant. Children are divergent thinkers. They can come up with a dozen creative ideas by breakfast, and they do it without judging themselves or being embarrassed or confined. And then we go to school, and we're taught to produce the single correct answer. We learn to be right, and we learn to get it right, and we learn that being wrong is bad. You get a big X mark for that. In 2006, Sir Ken Robinson delivered the most viewed TED Talk of all time. In it, he asked the question, do schools kill creativity? And his answer was yes. Children are natural risk takers. They are not afraid to take chances or to be wrong. But our education system systematically educates creativity out of them. And here's the thing. Creativity requires two types of thinking. It requires divergent thinking to generate lots of ideas, and it also needs convergent thinking to evaluate and refine them. But because we are afraid of being wrong, we skip straight to convergent thinking. We try to find the right answer before we've even explored the possibilities. Number 2, creativity has been optimized out of our schedules. Everyone is doing more with less, and we're doing it faster. Our schedules are tight, and our budgets are even tighter. But creativity requires time and space. You cannot innovate on a ruthlessly optimized schedule. When every minute is accounted for, there's no room for your thoughts to wander. There's no opportunity to ask, what if? For creativity to flourish, you need slack in your day. You need some margin. You need time to think and explore and to try things out that might not work. But most of us have eliminated all of the slack. We are running from meeting to meeting, task to task, daycare to drop off to cheer practice. Oh, and don't forget the dry cleaning. And we don't have a moment to ourselves to think or imagine. Number 3, we say we want innovation, but we punish every mistake. Creativity, it's inherently messy. Ideas, they don't emerge fully formed. They start out rough and incomplete, and they often are very wrong. The creative process requires iteration and refinement and failure. But most environments have zero tolerance for failure. Mistakes are seen as incompetence rather than learning opportunities. So people hide their mistakes, they avoid risks, and they just play it safe. And creativity can't flourish in that environment. Number 4, well-meaning gatekeepers starve creativity. Even when the people in charge genuinely want innovation, their behaviors often kill it. During my doctoral research on creativity in organizations, I discovered some troubling patterns. The leaders who say they want creativity are often the ones inadvertently destroying it by how they run things. And these leaders, they're the ones who check in all the time. They're always checking in. And so that feels like micromanagement. Or they set ambitious deadlines, and that creates chronic stress. Or they require multiple layers of approvals, and that signals distrust. Or they offer feedback, but that feels like criticism, not support. And so one by one, these well-intentioned behaviors starve creativity of what it needs the most. It needs psychological safety and autonomy and room to experiment. But unfortunately, most people in positions of authority have no idea they're doing this. And for your creativity to flourish, you need your leaders and your supervisors to protect your space. And you need for them to share control and to tolerate messiness and to respond to new ideas with curiosity instead of critique. And when those conditions are not present, even the most creative people will eventually stop trying and they'll probably leave. Now, this leads us to the final reasons that systems systematically suppress and kill creativity, which is perhaps the most critical and the most actionable. This is something we can do something about. Most people don't recognize that creativity reveals itself in different ways. All right, so number 5, we have defined creativity too narrowly. When most people picture a creative person, they usually describe an artist or an inventor. They think of someone who paints or draws or designs breakthrough products. And yes, those are all creative individuals, but they don't represent the full spectrum of creativity. And if you are only looking for the artist, you're missing out on creative ideas and innovative solutions. And when we understand creativity too narrowly, we miss the vast majority of creative genius that is right in front of us. And so if your mental model of creativity is limited to artistic expression or product design, you'll have creative geniuses all around you. They're solving problems and driving innovation, and you won't even know they're there. And what's even more heartbreaking is you may not even recognize your own creative genius. And that, my friends, is what inspired the Hodges 12 Types of Creative Genius and my upcoming book and this podcast. And after years of research and writing and working with organizations, I realized we don't have a language for the full array of creative genius, but that's about to change. So, in closing, Maya Angelou said, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." Your creativity is a gift. It's who you are. And the world desperately needs your unique creative genius. In the next episode, we're going to hear from a very special guest who never would have described herself as creative until she took the Hodges 12. And it's interesting that she didn't recognize creativity in herself, because I've always seen her as creative since we were in 8th grade together. One of my oldest friends, Cecilia de la Hoz, will join us from Madrid, Spain next time. And yes, she had Mr. Kingsley as an art teacher too at the American School of Paris. Now, you don't want to miss that conversation. Thank you for joining me. And if you haven't followed this podcast yet, please hit that follow button and you will be the first to know when a new episode drops. And I would love it if you would leave a review. It helps more people find us and join the conversation. And I just really enjoy hearing your thoughts. And if you want to discover your own creative genius types, please go to my website to take the assessment. I will put a link in the episode notes. So until next time, keep saying amen to creativity and bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. May you be wildly creative in your life and leadership. I'll see you soon.